For over 1,000 years, there was only one church in the Western world. But Martin Luther changed all that. So how did he do it? And did he really mean to do it on purpose? Hi, my name is Gay O'Neill, and this is Jesus Stories, where we find out about Christian history and about heroes of the faith. Because so much of who we are is because of who they were. If you remember from our last video, Martin Luther disagreed with the prevailing church doctrine, and when he refused to back down, he was excommunicated and wound up hiding out at a castle in Eisenbach. So what did Martin Luther do with all this newfound free time? He got to work on the second main principle of his 95 Theses, sola scriptura, by the Bible alone. Martin Luther believed that God spoke to every believer through the Bible and that there should be no separation between the Bible and the believer. Every believer should read the Bible for his or herself and not depend on the church's interpretation. So Martin Luther spent his time at Eisenbach by translating the New Testament from Greek to the language of everyday German people. So after his trial and excommunication, Luther left Rome as a wanted man. On his way home to Wittenberg, he was abducted and taken off to who knows where. Everyone in Rome and Wittenberg knew that Luther had been kidnapped, but they didn't know where he was taken. He hadn't sat for any portraits yet, so no one really knew, or very few people knew, what he looked like. So they didn't know where to look, and they couldn't really describe who they were looking for. The assumption was that Luther had been captured by the Holy Roman Emperor and imprisoned, but no one really knew. Luckily for Luther, the abduction was completely staged. For his own safety, he was taken to Eisenbach and hid out for the next year at Württemberg Castle. It was during that year that he translated the New Testament from Greek to German. So, since nobody knew what he looked like, he grew a beard and called himself Sir George. He spent that year traveling to nearby towns and markets, listening to people talk. And it was this speech of everyday German people that helped him to create a translation that was accessible to everyday folk. After a year in Eisenbach, Luther returned home to Wittenberg. His New Testament was published 6 months later. Over the next 10 years, he did assemble a small team and translated the entire Bible over those 10 years. Luther wasn't the first person to translate the Bible into the common language. There were many translators before him, but they were all put down as heretics. What made the difference this time was the printing press. What once cost more than a year of an average person's wages now costs a little over a month's wages, which means that just about every town or village could afford to have one in their local church. A book found in every town is not so easily dismissed. For the first time, large numbers of people had access to God's Word. And large numbers of people were coming to their own conclusions about God's Word. This is not what Luther intended. He just wanted people to be able to read the Bible for themselves. And he kind of assumed they would come to the same conclusions he did. Thanks to Luther's Bible, 200 years of bloody religious wars raged throughout Europe. Peasants revolted against nobles. Kings and princes fought the Pope. Millions of people lost their lives due to fighting, famine, and disease. As the dust settled, the Universal or Catholic Church kept the name. Its headquarters, the Vatican, sits inside of Rome, so the church became called the Holy Roman Catholic Church. Those who chose to worship outside that community lived in protest to the Universal Church. They became known as Protestants. Did Luther set out to divide Christianity? No. But God used him to create something that didn't exist before. God used Martin Luther's flaws to change Christianity forever. Flaws? But Martin Luther was a hero of the faith. He had to be a great guy, right? Yeah, maybe not. We'll talk about that later. Thanks again for watching Jesus Stories. This channel is all about church history and about heroes of the faith. Please share this video with someone who needs to hear this sort of content. And please let me know in the comments about what things you'd like to hear me talk about. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.